Welcome to Showdown. I'm Mark Kaysen, and this is Friday, the 29th of March, and that is Good Friday. And it is a very important day in the Christian religion. Unfortunately, Donald Trump has used this day to blaspheme everything that Christians believe in, and yet that won't apparently affect him at all. He's just rolling right along in a way that many people today are pointing out could be extremely dangerous to American democracy. And when I say many people, certainly the President Biden is speaking out very strongly in view of these horrible things that Trump is involved in right now. And I'm not just talking about the blasphemy. I'm talking about much more than that. But Biden is speaking out. Of course, there's some others that are speaking out along with him. For example, President Clinton and President Obama. And interestingly, they spoke together at a fundraiser last night. And pretty much everybody is saying that the strongest speech was by Obama, who sort of touched on this pretty much directly, but not exactly that way. And he almost said it. He came like 99% up to the line of saying it. And that is that Donald is a danger to our democracy, and that he and President Clinton will work with President Biden to fight this all the way down to the election in November, which is totally appropriate based on where we stand here. But others, that is, other important people in our government and people having to do with our court systems, they have spoken out as well. And importantly, they have identified some things which really people have said, but without really knowing what they're saying. But the people now that are speaking out very clearly, probably led by former federal judge J. Michael Luttig, who I understand you got a lot of people on the Republican side who hate Luttig, and they lump him together with what they call radical communists, when the truth is that J. Michael Luttig has been historically, throughout his time on the federal bench, one of the most conservative judges in all of America. Nobody has ever doubted that until he began speaking up against Donald Trump. And one of the things that people like Luttig are pointing to here is something having to do with pre-trial detention. And I think most people understand what that is. You know, if you're accused of something, and if the system, if the judicial system, the judges, if they believe that you're a danger to the community at large, if they think that you're involved in something that could lead to even more of whatever you're accused of, they put you in jail and they leave you there until your trial takes place. Now, you don't need a lot of examples of this, because hundreds of these defendants in Washington, D.C., they were put into pretrial detention. They're held. And in fact, hundreds are still being held. I mean, they're currently going through the process of being put on trial, and then when they're found guilty, and they all are, and some are pleading guilty, but others are being found guilty, and they are then being put in jail, and of course given credit for whatever time that they've spent in pretrial detention. I mean, this is commonly done, and it's done because of the fear that the person that's being accused may have done something that they would do again, and that there's strong evidence that they would do it again, and therefore they're put into that position of being kept in jail. I mean, they sit there and they wait for their trial, and then if they're found to be innocent, then they're let go. But if they're found guilty, which they most often are, they end up serving all that time, and then the idea is that the system is protecting citizens from dangerous people who might be willing to commit crimes all the time for just whatever reason, just because they feel like it. And the point being made today widely across the judicial system and by attorneys and judges alike across the country is that Donald Trump fits that pattern perfectly. And the fact that he is not being put away, that he is not being detained prior to trial, well, I mean, everybody's pretty much saying it's because Donald Trump is being treated differently than every other person in the United States. Now, Donald says that he is being treated differently. He admits that. He says that he is being treated horribly, and that as a result, that not only should he be free prior to the trials, but according to him, this is why all of his trials should be dismissed. Every accusation, all 88 remaining. There were 91, 3 were dismissed in Georgia, but now 88 counts, according to Trump, should be dismissed because he has been treated evilly. Now, lots of money from pandemic funding. Look who popped up on the screen. Maurice Scott. Hi, Maurice.
Hey, Fetcher Kaysen, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Fine. And by the way, do you have anything on in the background there? Any noise?
Well, let me turn it down. I was listening to another deal about Tashara, but let me turn it down.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll talk about Tashara here for sure. And I just wanted to be sure that, we didn't have any interference here on the line. But I'll tell you, first of all, let's back up a second, because you called me Fetcher Kaysen.
That's right.
Let's clarify what that is. So, our very good friend, that's Jacob Israel.
That's right.
Who is a former on-air personality and phone caller before that to many talk shows in St. Louis, and who is also a Black Hebrew Israelite. He says that in the next lifetime, that my job will be to fetch him wine. So, thereby some people came around to calling me Fetcher Kaysen. So that's good. Listen, you don't want anybody to not understand, the inside deal.
And that's been for about let's see, this is 2024. That's probably been about 35, 40 years.
Well, I was going to say it's 35 anyway.
Okay.
35. Yeah, 35 years. Boy, time flies when you're having fun.
It does.
You know, you look pretty young, Maurice, to tell you the truth. You look
Well,
great.
thank you.
Now, I
Thank
know
you. I appreciate
you're
that.
going to say the same thing about me, but I can tell you right now, it's not exactly true. And the reason I say that is because I've seen some things online, old programs. In fact, you see this program is Showdown, and Showdown, as you remember, was our television show back in the early 2000s. And I have seen those programs. And in fact, now that I have your email address, I'm gonna send you a link that will allow you to access 30 of those shows initially, because what's happening, and this is really a cool thing, is that Washington University has taken all 250 of those Showdown programs, which they have on DVD, and they are uploading them to the internet.
Okay.
So they will become part of the Washington University library collection, specifically dealing with civil rights. And of course, the reason is to honor Onion Horton.
Well, you know, I'm glad you mentioned my dad, who, by the way, I used to always say I was his son that he didn't have a W-2 on. But
Right.
remember that. But anyway, do you still have some of the tapes and some of the things or the archives of his shows?
Yeah, people ask me that, and the answer is simple. N-O.
Oh, wow.
No. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a shame. It's a shame. But I'll tell you, the good thing is that both Onion and I together got our hands on those DVDs when KDHX dropped the television shows.
Okay.
And we took those DVDs to Washington University, signed the paperwork, and turned everything over to WashU. And so they've got it all.
Okay.
And that's the TV shows. And let me say, whew, did we look young? Wow.
I bet.
I mean, wow. You know, pretty amazing. And everybody on, all the way from people like Bosley, both Bosleys, right. Bosley Sr., Bosley Jr., Tim Person.
Oh, wow.
Everybody who ever walked into that show, Jim Berger, you know, everybody looked 1,000 years younger. So that's why I say, I mean, I don't think that I look bad, you know, but,
no, of course not.
But I'm just saying, I could see the difference in being 72 versus 50.
Yeah, and the lenses have got a little thicker too since.
Probably so.
Yeah.
Okay. Probably so. Not as thick as Alan Horton's though.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah,
absolutely
he's got the best Coke bottles in America.
That's
and
right.
And actually, Alan was on here last week.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, he came on and we talked everything. We talked a lot of sports.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, you know, you can talk both sports and politics, which can Baby O. Yeah. But you know, we talked a lot of sports, and the reason is because we actually did the show from the parent-teacher conference at Cardinal Ritter.
Okay. And that was neat.
And so we had some of the students come on and talk sports. Now I know for a fact that there's some sports competition between our two schools. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
East St. Louis.
Yeah, East St. Louis and Cardinal Ritter have a little thing going on, but it's all in fun.
Yeah, it's not bad. No, not at all. Both cities, both Cardinal Ritter, the team on this side of the river and yours are outstanding competitors in athletics, right?
That is correct. And trying to get a date together to see if we can just settle the score, but we can't get everybody to cooperate.
Yeah. Cardinal Ritter certainly is on a roll, aren't they?
They are. They're doing a good job, and hats off to them. My good friend Jim Collins is on the coaching staff, and It's a lot of good kids, a lot of great players over there. So, we support you guys and wish you nothing but the best. It's an excellent school. Got a lot of friends over there.
Yeah. How well do you know Brennan Spain?
Know him quite well. He used to be a former coach at East St. Louis, and I do some things with the football team. I'm the voice of Flyers football. I do all the
Okay.
PA announcing and stuff with him. So yeah, I know Coach Spain very well, and his wife was a heck of an athlete in her own right over there when she was in school. So they got a good combination together. And then I think she won state in the track and field,
Yes,
didn't
she
she?
did.
And yeah, and he won in football in the same year. That's something that doesn't see me that too
No,
many things happen that way.
probably very rare. And in fact, her name is Tiffany Spain.
Mm-hmm.
Tiffany is a great person,
Mm-hmm.
just great.
Yeah.
Great person, great coach, just outstanding. And Brennan also very outstanding person. I didn't know about his work at East St. Louis because I knew him and worked with him at Vashon.
Okay. Yeah, he was an assistant coach under Coach Darren Sunken at East St. Louis prior to him getting the Cardinal Ritter job.
Okay, because
Mhm.
I can tell you right now that at Vashon, unfortunately, uh, Brennan Spain was not in the kind of position where he belonged. He
Yeah,
just wasn't.
right.
And I really blame the system in St. Louis public for that kind of situation
Yeah,
because Brennan is just one of my great friends. I just love him. We
good
we
guy.
we work together so nicely at school because obviously he's running the sports team and I work with him to help the students,
Hmm.
to be scholars while he's helping them to be athletes.
Right. There's
And
uh there's
yeah,
so many good people, unsung heroes, I like to call them, that not only teachers but are coaching athletics and dealing with the parents, having your discipline in your program, making sure kids are getting their schoolwork as well as coaching them whatever sports you're coaching. It's a big deal, and a lot of these kids, quite honestly, are safer with us coaches after school than they are going home. And coaches don't get the credit they deserve as far as raising and mentoring and often taking care of a lot of these kids. So it's an outlet. Of course, academics are first, but it's an outlet, and I think a lot of coaches don't get the praise, and a lot of people don't understand what we do with young people after school lets out.
yeah. I hope that East St. Louis does give you that kind of recognition. Do you think they do?
Quite yes.
Good. Good.
I'm the assistant head girls basketball coach here. I'm the head boys baseball coach. As a matter of fact, I run the baseball program in the entire district, our feeder program, our middle school program, as well as our high school program. So I'm involved with the football program. So I'm entrenched. They treat me quite well here. I'm a truancy officer in a homeless liaison during the school hours and the coach in it after 2:30 when school lets out. So I'm very happy with the position and the things that they allow me to do here at East St. Louis School District 189 and East St. Louis Senior High. I also started, which has been quite successful, our Unified Olympic program, which finished first in the state for 2 years in a row in football. Second place runner up last year, and they finished fourth in the state in basketball. And I won the state championship in track and field last year. Our unified program is in conjunction with the Special Olympics, and they call it unified because you pair a a Special Olympic kid with a so-called regular kid, so to speak. So they unified and they mentor and help the other athletes, and it's very competitive throughout the state of Illinois. And just recently, like 10 days ago, about 6 months ago, we were rewarded the unified banner. It was 10 schools selected in the country. And because of the accomplishments and the things that we did at East St. Louis Senior High School, our high school was recognized by ESPN as a unified champion, and we received a big banner. They was in the school for 2 days, and ESPN that is, and it was quite a feat and quite an honor they had for our student body and our staff.
That is extremely exciting. And it just does show one of the things which I talk about all the time, and that we should talk about a little bit here tonight. And that is the capability that these schools could have
Mm-hmm.
in changing the lives of young people
That's right.
in such a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I think that St. Louis Public has been the other side of the coin in all of this, and it's unfortunate. They have a new superintendent over there, and I can only tell you that I've had no conversation with her whatsoever. None.
It's incredible. I
Yeah.
remember when I was with Jim Collins, your colleague. I know Jim still works in the Normandy district, but I think he coaches. I know he coaches still at CR, but um, he and I and the late great Demetrius Johnson, used to do the show on Sunday mornings together. And I was with him the last 3 years up until his death, on the show, on Demetrius Johnson show, and um, during the end of his life, often we would talk about the non-participation. He had a great relationship with the previous superintendent, but he would talk about some of the things like, I remember the athletes didn't have bus service, to games and stuff, um, and he would also talk about some of the issues in St. Louis public school system, and um, it's unfortunate because a lot of those kids in that particular school district really need progressive programming, really need after school programming and athletics, and people have to wrap around that. Luckily, we have a superintendent that endorses athletics and after school programming and extracurricular activities in our school district in East St. Louis, Mr. Arthur Culver. And when you have a leadership in the brass, so to speak, up the food chain on local boards and school districts that have um, um, a change of command in their system. I just think when they embrace things for youth to do, especially high school kids, it's very important. It's actually vital, not only for the community but the survival of these kids. And it's kind of a perfect segue, Mark, because one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, with you being in, and I'm not switching the tables, you're the host, but
No,
we've been doing
you know
this.
you could do what you want. Oh, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Um, we see so much violence. A lot of the Hazelwood school district situation recently, and there's fights in every school district, not only here in St. Louis but in the metropolitan area. Even in the white school districts, they just hide them more, But um, I think there needs to be a conversation about keeping our youth busy, and it goes all the way down to the summer months are approaching. Um, recreation centers. Reggie Jones do an outstanding job in the Ferguson area with that Boys and Girls Club that he has, and of course the great Jackie Joyner Kersey Center here in East St. Louis, and there are some other Herbert Hoover with my man, his name for it'll come to me, but they do an outstanding job with the the monies that they have, the limited funds that they have. But I just remember back when I was a teenager in the middle to late 70s, there was always something to do. And I think a lot of this violence and stuff like that is becoming, there's several layers, but I think that because there's nothing for teenagers to do after school, and I think the schools and the churches are partly responsible for that. I don't expect things to be the way they were in the 70s and 80s, but uh, the old saying that it takes a village is still operable and effective. And I just think There's a lot of things that have changed. We don't even know who our neighbors are now. But I'm just saying, I think schools and churches and leadership plays a vital part in some of the violence that we're having in schools.
Yeah, there's one thing that I've been talking about on the air here, and even before we restarted this programming about a month and a half ago, and that is there's some research that's been done at Washington University, and the guy who's in charge of this is a guy named Jeff Ward, and he is a professor in the Black Studies department there, where I do a considerable amount of work, and I can tell you that Jeff's research tells us that the places in America where there has been enormous history of white violence against Black people, so it's clear-cut racial violence, and certainly that would qualify over in East St. Louis, where they massacred all those people in 1915. But this has gone on in places all over the country, and interestingly, those are the places where Black people are struggling the greatest and suffering from violence today that often people describe as Black on Black crime. And the point I'm making is that where people want to say, well, okay, you got to blame Black people for what they've done. Okay. And sure enough, I mean, if you do a crime, then you're to blame. I mean, that's a fact. But don't forget that a lot of this has been created by the relationships in this country that are basically part of what a lot of us have called the Black Holocaust. And in fact, in Washington, D.C., for years, the Holocaust Museum has recognized the Jewish Holocaust and the Black Holocaust, that they both exist. And I can tell you also, there's a guy named Timba over at WashU, a very young 33-year-old Black scholar who came from South Africa. He is doing his work on creating these comparisons between the Black and Jewish Holocaust in a way that's very important for us to understand, in which certainly the white community does not want to hear one bit. And all you got to do is look out at Francis Howell, where they're trying to get rid of Black history. Yeah. And also other districts here, Wentzville is one, where they're trying to get rid of what we all call DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And by the way, the story, I'm sure, of the Hazelwood East girl that got beat up, right?
Yeah, I do.
So the Attorney General of Missouri is saying that the reason that she was beat up is because of DEI.
It's crazy. It's crazy, and I've been following that situation, and it's come out that she had got suspended the day before, and that doesn't by no means says that what happened to her should have happened. I think we got to peel back all the layers, and that's what people don't want to do, and be honest and say, but why is these things happening? And hence the word honest. And it's something missing that used to be there. Like I said, things have changed. The only thing I would say is that a lot of parents want to be friends with their kids. And we can say it starts at home, but it's an extension of that once they leave home as well. Kids don't like to follow directions any longer, and they have some kids, and I don't know where all the disrespect came from. When we were told to do something, we did it, Mark. It wasn't no question.
Well, I'm not even gonna agree 100% on that. And I'll give you an example.
Hmm.
At our school, our kids have to wear uniforms, and they have to have their shirts tucked in.
Okay.
Okay. Now, when I was in high school, we were supposed to have our shirts tucked in. We weren't supposed to wear uniforms, but we were supposed to always have our shirts tucked in. And there were signs all over the school that said, tuck in your shirts. And guess what?
What?
We all pulled our shirts out. Now, I'm not saying it was a crime. I'm just telling you, teenagers don't like to do what they're told.
Well,
I understand that there are different levels of this, but
yeah.
I assure you, when we were doing political demonstrations at our school, we were told not to do it. And so instead of going along with it, we started inviting the newspapers to come and participate by reporting what we were doing at the school. So I understand we were trying to be extremely respectful, and we were trying to do the right thing.
That's when the white women took their bras off and didn't want to wear them.
That is correct.
So on the flip side, we used to require uniforms in our school district at the high school level, and the students, we give students a little ownership, and they voted to get rid of it. And since then, this is year 2 since we got rid of uniforms. The kids, I would say 99.9% comply. They don't wear jeans that show skin, and they've done quite well with it. So I think kids, in my opinion, I think teenagers will follow directions if it's consistent. And I think we don't have a lot of consistency nowadays when we're trying to enforce discipline.
How do you do at your school on cell phones?
We allow cell phone usage. However, it's because we have to we realize that kids use cell phones for different things in class now. Now that could be a number of reasons for that. You can say, well, teachers are lazy now, but the information is on the internet. So we allow cell phones in our classroom, and it's up to the individual teacher there is policies in place, but there's up to the individual teachers to enforce policy.
Yeah. Do your students all have computers?
Yes, we do. Throughout the school district.
Okay.
So and that's on every level, secondary as well as on every level.
Yeah. And I don't know if they have them at St. Louis Public at this point, but I do remember in 2011, there were dollars that came into St. Louis Public from the DSEG program, which as you will, I'm sure, remember,
I do.
Jay Nixon fought it for years until the money finally came in. Right. But Nixon was against it every inch of the way. And Onion spoke out, of course, against Nixon. And that was one of the biggest issues behind the big fight at 1380 years ago, is because Nixon was trying to take that station away so that he wouldn't be attacked.
I remember it was yesterday.
Exactly. But I will say that in 2011, Kelvin Adams promised in writing, I'll never forget because I kept it and I used it because he said, we're going to give every student in St. Louis Public their own personal computer with the money, which was only going to cost like $2 million.
Right.
So it wasn't like it was like 2%.
Right.
And they didn't even do that.
Well,
they didn't follow through. They made the promise and then didn't deliver it. And I don't know where it is today. Maybe they've got one today.
Well,
I just know our kids, 450 black students at Cardinal Ritter. Not only do they have computers, not only are they respectful kids, but they work hard. They create a great school environment, and all of this goes to the heart of what teachers can do to help young people be successful. And I always say, here's one school, Cardinal Ritter, and 1 mile down the street, you've got all the chaos going on at Vashon. And it's a perfect contrast that shows that black kids can do everything that white kids do.
That's right.
If they're treated properly.
Yep, because they recognize that these kids are way smarter than we were. They recognize things. And again, I get back to the word being consistent with them. And I've always been an advocate. I've been working with teenagers for over 40 years now. I think you have to let teenagers have some sort of ownership. So say so. And I think that's the more effective way. And I think some of the districts that aren't successful is do as I say or else.
Exactly. And it doesn't work.
It doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
Because you have some bright minds and future bright people that are going to be running this planet in high schools across America. And the method of do as I say, where they're getting cursed out, being mistreated at home. The schools are safe havens. So they don't want to hear all this by adults who's supposed to be people they should respect when they enter a building, and they don't get the respect that they think they deserve.
Sure. Okay. Well, let me hold your thought there, and we're going to do a little bit of business.
Okay.
And then we'll come right back and get on to the rest of this. So the first thing is I don't know what time at night you eat, Maurice, but we generally talk about getting something good to eat somewhere around 4:30, 4:35, right where we are right now. Mm-hmm. And for us, there's a restaurant here in Chesterfield Valley that's called Wenty's. Wente. Okay. And Wenty is a great place for barbecued ribs, baby back ribs, pizza.
Oh, can't go wrong there.
Yeah, I was going to say, who doesn't like pizza? Give me a break. Right. They got wings. They've got smoked meats. They've got onion rings. They've got hamburgers and cheeseburgers and patty melts. And it's a great place to eat. It's a lot of fun. The owner is a guy named Ben, who has been, really a great guy in supporting some of our broadcasting here that we do at this sort of network that's developing, where in the morning we have a show. If you know Vic Faust, who's sort of our leader in all this.
He was a heck of an athlete and football player at Belleville Altar, right around the corner from me.
There you go. Yes. See? Yeah. Okay. Well, see, we'll have to tell him that his days are remembered.
That's right.
Okay. Very good. And anyway, Wenty's is great. They're at 18,000 Chesterfield Airport Road, and they've got all this great food and great people running the place. And that is Wenty's. And we hope that our viewers will get over there because the food is terrific.
You know what, Fetcher? I'm going to try them. You're going to fetch me some wine one day, and I'm going to go by there because, you used to come out and see me umpire right across right before the stop.
Right there.
Yeah, I did Chesterfield Athletic Association.
Yes.
So when next time I go out there to umpire, I'm going to bring some Wenty's back to the ghetto over here on the east side.
Well, and you're going to let me know, and I'm going to come over with you, and we'll meet Ben.
Okay, great.
Okay. Great. So now that's Wenty's. Now next, I want to tell you about Jules on Hampton.
All right.
So Jules on Hampton, what a great place. If you're interested in jewelry, if you collect coins, if you're buying and selling all of those things, jewelry and coins, great place to go. They're very creative. They create their own designs in jewelry. They'll help people to put together jewelry that they design themselves. They for example, too, I've got this watch on my wrist here, which you probably can't see, but at any rate, it's a 45-year-old gold Seiko watch.
Oh, wow.
And nice watch 45 years ago, but things need to be repaired, and they repair watches
I need to
at
go see them.
Jules on Hampton as well.
I
It's
need to
just
go
a
see them.
great place.
Well,
And
they are a nugget and a jewel themselves on Hampton. They've been around a long time, haven't
they
they?
have.
Okay,
They
all
have.
right.
And
Okay.
and the owner, actually two of them, Al and his son AJ,
Okay.
and Al, excellent, just really knows the business, and he really takes care of people that come in.
So if I got a watch, it's not old, but no one seems to can fix it. If I take my watch over to Jewels on Hampton, you're telling me that they can fix it.
I would say highly probable.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm coming.
Okay. Yeah. Just tell Al where you came from.
All right. Will
Yep.
he recognize you if I say Fetchucation, or I better say
That
Mark?
the fetcher party won't get. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
But
Okay.
he'll handle the rest of it. That's right.
Okay. All right.
So that's Al and AJ over there. And then finally, today I'm sort of dressed down a little bit because that when I'm at work, I'm always in a suit.
That's right.
Suit and
All
tie.
the time.
Suit and
All the
tie.
time.
And that goes all the way back to when I was in high school, because we whenever we were doing bad things, like demonstrating against somebody, we would always wear our suit and tie, hoping that whatever the consequences would be, they might be a little bit less if we were dressed well.
That's right.
And here, the St. Louis Suit Company, which again, I know that you're well aware that they have supported me and Onion Horton far back. And so, here they are.
Back to the old WGNU days.
Absolutely. And they're right here with us. They've been in St. Louis for 29 years. Jay and Nick are the two guys there, although the rest of the family works as well. And it's just a great place. And I always tell people that if you want a great tie, you can get one there for $5. And wow. they're silk ties, beautiful ties. You can't find better. And they're at St. Louis Suit Company. Now, you could get the very same excellent ties at Trump's Tie Company. And the only thing different is, first of all, Trump would charge you $50 instead of $5.
Right.
And secondly, when you put that thing on, it would choke you.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, but St. Louis Suit Company, no problem. No choking. Everybody's great. $5 a tie, and the suits are terrific. And that's the St. Louis Suit Company on Forsyth and Central in Clayton.
I bet you my man Scott Rosenblum knows about that.
So I'll bet he does too.
Oh, yeah.
I'll bet he does too. I'll tell you who else goes there and has for many years. Do you know the name George Draper?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Yes, I do.
So
I remember that name.
Black Chief Justice,
That's
second
right.
Black Chief Justice behind Ronnie White, who was the first in the state of Missouri. And he is a regular at the St. Louis Suit Company.
Yeah.
And in fact, one of these days, we're going to have him on to talk about a lot of different things.
Wow. He could tell you a lot.
Great man.
Well, he used to come on back in the day, in the radio days, and have some interesting things to say about certain situations and what he went through. So that'd be a great hour of talk for you, Mark.
You bet. And again, he's a big supporter of the St. Louis Suit Company.
Okay.
So, in Clayton. So, okay. So that takes care of that for a minute. And, those commercials, I would say that it sort of has to remind you of the Onion Horton days, because nobody could
the live
tell
read
a story, about a company the way Onion could do. But that's the Onion Horton method.
Stepney Brothers and all of them just popped in my head.
Yeah. Horton had a way of telling a story that would sell your company.
Yeah, you're right. And kind of got us run out off radio too.
Well, I would say that's true. Oh yeah, we got run off of everywhere.
Yeah, we got run off many times.
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. There was something that white people didn't like about Onion.
Yep. And that's interesting as we look back and as I've certainly got older. Um, and Onion had a way of getting out information, and I think the real thing was he would tell everybody, if you don't believe me, meet me in the library. I'll be in the periodical section at 8 o'clock tomorrow. I'll
Yes,
show
he
it to
did.
you in writing what I'm talking about.
Yes, he
You remember?
did.
You remember when we got the Missouri fight song changed and
Oh,
it led
very
off the
well.
6 o'clock news?
Very well. He talked about that all the time and just crushed those people because
Crushed
he
them.
told what the words were.
That's right. You remember that meeting with Larry Smith and oh man, we could talk some stories, man.
Oh yeah. Well, that's why Wash U is honoring him in that library,
Hmm.
and I'm so glad that that's happening
Yeah,
because truly, Onion deserved that kind of recognition. A lot of people tried to shut it down because again, white people didn't like it.
that's right. That's right. But they listened to every day. They could tell everything he said word by word, but they didn't like it. I remember the conversations he would have with Dutch and some of the other ones and just classic stuff.
Classic.
And before we mention that, another guy, I know you big with Wash U and stuff, and a guy that I discovered probably about 6, 7 years ago, and would listen to him faithfully because he reminded me of Onion. Which was the late great Joe Madison, who just
Oh
passed
yes,
away on
absolutely.
Sirius, and I would see him on with Don Lemon on CNN from time to time, but I wasn't aware of his radio program. And what a mind and a delivery was different, but yet the same.
Yeah, sure.
Mhm.
Well, Onion led this market in radio in a way that nobody ever did, and people just didn't want to say that that was true.
Yeah,
And
that's
yet
right.
and yet the listeners all knew.
Yeah, but Mark Onion was the guy that did pave the way. But hey, man, you and him was a dynamic duo as well. I have to give you credit because you never ran away from it, the truth, and you were never scared to stand with us and talk with us every day, and that's why I have a lot of respect for you. Um, and you are a pioneer in this business as well, Mark, because and I don't think people give you the credit that you deserve as well.
Yeah. I have to say, like Onion, because Onion said it all the time, and I'm not saying it, just and not meaning it. I mean it. And that
Hmm.
is, who cares about the credit?
That's
Okay.
right.
I mean, the truth is that airwaves in the United States are extremely valuable.
That's
And
right.
we all know the First Amendment and so forth, and it's extremely important to all of our lives, and that's why when Barack Obama last night, uh, President Obama,
Hmm.
spoke on behalf of Joe Biden and talked about the necessity of fighting to save our system. He wasn't joking.
It wasn't
This,
joking. No, it's
yeah,
serious.
I mean, there's no question that Donald has told everyone that if he has the opportunity to go into the White House again, that he would shut down all of the broadcasting that he doesn't want to hear.
That's right.
And
That's
he's
right.
also said, which I'll tell you, when he says it, I've played this for my kids at school, and I can tell you that the kids don't jump up and down the way they should. But for example, when he says that the blood of America is being poisoned by people that are coming into our country from Africa, I got to tell you, it's just like the Jews in Germany. If you don't believe him when he tells you what he's got up his
That's right.
sleeve, then you're in for trouble because this is where he's going.
That's right. He's not playing, and he's angry for a lot of reasons. And he's going to take it out on people that don't agree with him and his policies if he gets reelected.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a federal judge today. His name is Walton. Let me see. Let me see if I can get that. Get his first name on here. Yeah, Reggie Walton. Okay, he is a federal judge who today said that what's happening in Donald Trump's court cases is an extreme danger to our judicial system. And federal judges don't say these things.
That's true.
They don't do it.
Yeah,
they're quiet. They let things go. They let the system work itself out. But not only did he come out and say very specifically that, but in addition, there's a lot of talk today about the fact that anybody, and Maurice, neither one of us is an attorney,
right?
But here's the thing: if you were in trouble in court, would you go in respectfully and talk to the judge in a very humble way, or would you go in and start calling him names, threatening his family, and threatening everybody in the courtroom, and then walking out and claiming that you had a First Amendment right to it?
Yeah.
I mean, where would you be?
It's just crazy.
You'd be in jail.
Yeah, they would have locked me up for contempt right there at the stand, right there in the courthouse.
And the thing about it is, we know it in America as pre-trial detention.
That's right.
This is not something that nobody ever heard of before.
That's right.
When somebody is dangerous, when they're threatening witnesses, then and jurors as well, then they are locked up. And and the problem is that, yes, there's a gag order, for example, that just came out, but they're saying, people, that it doesn't cover, for example, the judge's daughter. I mean, give me a break. If you're on the jury of this trial and this sort of thing is going on, are you going to feel safe?
Nah, not at all. It's every man for themselves.
Yeah. So pre-trial detention would be completely appropriate here.
Yeah. But this guy plays by a different set of rules as others. And it's unfortunate. I don't think people are really paying attention to what's happening. Mark, you got people worried about how they're going to eat, how they're going to pay their mortgage, how they're going to pay their insurance and stuff we're talking about with the kids. They hear Donald, but I don't think they're hearing exactly what he's saying. And we're going to have a lot. That's why it's so important for this next election that we vote. Not only Black people, people of all colors who don't agree with his ideologically, because the guy's not playing. He's just not talking. He's serious.
Oh, yeah.
And, people who don't think that your right to vote is important, this election is probably one of the most important ones that'll go down in history. Certainly Barack was during that time, but this one may be just as important. And they talk about the Black vote. I think females are going to be the one that decide this election.
I'm so glad you said that, because there was a poll yesterday, and it showed that among women, so this isn't a close call, among women, it is 60 to 35 in favor of Joe Biden.
Yeah.
In the entire country.
That's right.
And I think there's no doubt about it. Women are going to make the difference in this election. And I don't think you can be down by 25 points in one giant group of people, like the whole, female population. I don't think you can be down 25 points and think you're going to win the election. I don't think it's possible.
It's not.
And you're not going to change those people's minds. They know what's going on. They know about women who are bleeding out and dying because Donald Trump has done things that make doctors afraid to treat their patients.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That particular incident, and especially how he has the Supreme Court Onion used to talk about you as well how important the Supreme Court is.
You
And the
bet.
way that is curved this country is amazing. Some of the decisions that they've made, not only the abortion issue, but others, how this country is really reshaping in front of our eyes. And
Yeah, my cousin Michael from Arizona just popped onto Facebook
mhm,
and wrote something which is what we're saying here, and that is that this may be the most important election in American history, and I don't think it's at all pushing this too far. As Joe Biden would say, it's not hyperbole.
that's
This
right.
this is real.
That's right. That's right. And no, this election is really setting up for the next one. Um, Future presidential candidates, because however this one tilts, it's like who's next? Because it's obvious this will probably be Uncle Joe's last run,
Yeah, oh, sure. Yeah.
you know. And who's next? After he wins, who's next?
Yeah. Well, certainly, and that's something I think is interesting too. I'd like to hear your feelings about Kamala Harris, who I think is outstanding, and yet there's so many people that just kick her butt every day, and I don't know what she's done that anybody thinks is not proper, because she's just fulfilling the role of a
Of the
vice
vice
president.
president. That's right. I think she still, Mark, catches a lot of flack of the so-called early '80s incident. The Republican Party has certainly used it against her, and they will continue in this next election if she opens her mouth and says anything. Um, I think it's more of that, because I think she's bright, she's witty. She would know how to step right in if something would happen. I think she's prepared. She's been around a long time, and I don't think the general audience, they don't understand that she's been around politics and
Yes,
big
she
time
has.
politicians a long time.
And I think she's getting an education under Joe Biden that will give her the spotlight after this 4 years, assuming that Donald hasn't taken over and changed us into Germany.
That's correct. And I think if she has her time, she will show not only America but the world that she's no joke.
I
I
agree.
think she would be just as uh, stern and as President Obama and President Biden, who, by the way, um, in my opinion, President Obama didn't get the credit. You have a lot of even black people say, "Oh, he was this, he was that." You cannot say turn the world around unless you go to the extreme, like former President Trump, and get everything done in 8 years. And you're not going to please everybody, but he, in my opinion, not because he's black. If you look at his policies and the things he put in place, by the way, they said Obamacare would never work, and it has. It saved millions of lives. I think he will go down in history later as one of the greatest of all time.
And his guy, Joe, has followed up with this effort that he started back in his early presidency, and then the Republicans came in and stopped it. And that's the tax credits for kids, which really removed 50% of kids from poverty in the United States. Mm-hmm. And of course, Biden is trying to push for that again, but won't get it unless all the Democrats win in 2024.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
how does Michael feel, your cousin out in Arizona, feel about the in a nutshell? I know it's time to go almost, but
yes, it is.
How does he feel about the Arizona politicians and their crazy policies out there?
Well, he's got a lot to say about it, but unfortunately we are out of time. And I really do appreciate you, Maurice, for coming up here. And you have a lot to say, and always have. And hopefully we'll do this again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. As long as you fetch my wine before the 4th of July.
Well, you
And-
know that.
Okay, great.
I'll
great.
always do that. And
Okay.
and so I do want to end this by saying Wendy's for food, Jules on Hampton for jewelry, and finally, when it comes to the suits, the St. Louis Suit Company in Clayton. And thank you, Maurice Scott. I'm Mark
Anytime.
Kaysen. This is Showdown. Good night.
Good night.